The blood still flashed in Ava's mind, like it was trapped between her skull and her heartbeat. She'd replayed that night 100 times, hoping to remember something different, anything that would change the ending. But no matter how she sliced it, Adrien Kane was gone. The city didn't mourn him. Celebrated. His enemies came out from the dark like rats sensing a dead lion. And Ava, caught in the middle, became their favorite game. Started with the silent calls. A phone ringing at 3 a.m., no voice on the other end. Then came the letters, red ink slashing across white paper. You're next. Tonight, she didn't bother locking the door. If they wanted her, they'd come. She was sitting on the kitchen floor, back against the fridge, a glass of wine in her hand, when she heard it, the slow, deliberate click of the door. She didn't even lift her head. If you're going to kill me, do it fast, she muttered. A low chuckle. Well, smooth, dangerous. Killing you isn't on my list, Ava. Not yet. Her eyes flew up, and there he was. Not Adrien. Taller, broader, dressed in a black coat that dripped rain onto her floor. His face was half hidden under the shadow of the streetlight, but his smile was the kind that promised trouble. Who are you? She asked, gripping the glass like a weapon. He stepped closer, eyes scanning her like he was memorizing every curve, every scar. Let's just say, I was the only one Adrien trusted. And now, you're my responsibility. The words hit her like a slap. You knew Adrien. Knew him. The stranger's smirk deepened. Darling, I'm the reason he's dead. For a moment, Ava just stared at him, unsure if her pulse was racing from fear, or the way his voice slid over her like velvet over steel. You killed Adrien? She asked, rising slowly to her feet. His gaze didn't waver. No. I just pulled the trigger that made it happen. That's the same thing, she snapped. Not when the man asked for it. The words punched the air from her lungs. She wanted to scream at him, call him a liar, but there was something in his eyes, something that told her he believed every word. Why would Adrien? She trailed off, shaking her head. No. Adrien loved his life too much. The stranger stepped forward until the scent of rain and gunpowder wrapped around her. No, Ava. Adrien loved you too much. And in my world, love is the fastest way to get killed. Her knees felt weak, but her mouth found the question. Who are you? He smiled like the devil himself had whispered in his ear. Name's Lucien Voss. Adrien and I. We go way back. He owed me a debt in blood. When it came due, he gave me his life, in exchange for yours. Her stomach twisted. Why would you want me? Lucien's eyes darkened, sweeping over her in a way that made her skin heat and crawl all at once. Because, darling, debts don't end with death. And you? You're the part of Adrien's story I never got to own. Before she could reply, a shadow moved outside the window. A glint of metal. Lucien's hand shot to her waist, yanking her down just as a bullet tore through the glass and buried itself in the wall behind them. Guess they found you, he muttered, his body covering hers completely. His voice was calm, but she could feel his heart hammering against her chest. And in that moment Ava knew, whatever Lucien Voss wanted from her, survival meant playing along. The car smelled of leather and danger. Rain streaked across the windows as Lucien drove with one hand, the other resting casually on the gearshift. Ava sat stiff in the passenger seat, arms crossed, trying not to notice the way his presence filled every inch of the car. You're taking me somewhere safe? She asked. Lucien's smirk didn't reach his eyes. Safe is a matter of perspective. For now, I'm taking you somewhere they won't look. They, she pressed. The same people who just tried to put a bullet through your head. People who used to work for me. Until I let Adrien live. Her breath caught. You let him live. You just said. I didn't want to kill him. That was his choice. But sparing him cost me more than you can imagine. Silence swallowed the rest of her questions until they reached the outskirts of the city. The car pulled into a sprawling estate surrounded by tall iron gates. It was the kind of place you'd expect a kingpin to retire, elegant, silent, and drenched in menace. Inside it was all dark marble and expensive art. But the thing that made Ava's stomach twist wasn't the grandeur. It was the framed photograph on the wall. A younger Lucian and Adrien side by side, arms slung around each other like brothers. Her voice came out a whisper. "You were friends." Lucian's gaze flicked to the photo, then back to her. "Closer than friends. And you were the reason we stopped." Ava's head spun. "I didn't even know you existed." "No," he said, stepping closer until she had to tilt her chin up to meet his eyes. "But I knew you. Every laugh. Every habit. Every night you left Adrien's apartment window open because you couldn't sleep without fresh air. I knew it all." Her mouth went dry. "Why?" Lucian's voice softened, dangerous in its quietness. "Because Adrien told me about you before he even met you. You were supposed to be mine, Ava. Until he stole you from me." Before she could react, a phone rang in his pocket. He answered, his tone sharp and clipped. When he hung up, his jaw was tight. "We have a problem. Someone inside my circle just sold your location. And they're already on their way." It started with a faint hum. The estate's power flickered once. Twice. Then died, swallowing the rooms in shadows. Lucian's head snapped up. "They're here." Ava's pulse quickened. "Already?" He didn't answer. In one motion, he grabbed her wrist, pulling her down the hallway. "Stay low. Keep quiet." The sound of boots crunching on gravel grew louder outside. Ava's mind raced, every instinct telling her to run, but the grip on her arm felt like the only solid thing in a world tipping sideways. They slipped into a side room, the faint glow of moonlight spilling through tall windows. Lucian moved to the wall, pressed something, and a hidden panel clicked open, revealing a narrow stairwell leading down. "This way," he murmured. Before they could step inside, glass shattered somewhere down the corridor. Shouts followed, harsh and close. "Lucian!" a voice bellowed. "We just want the girl. Give her to us and walk away." Lucian's expression hardened. He leaned close, his breath brushing her ear. "Do you trust me?" "No," she whispered. "Good," he said, a dangerous smile tugging at his lips. "It means you're smart. Now move." They descended into the darkness, emerging in what looked like an underground garage. The hum of engines echoed faintly, and Ava realized this wasn't just a hideout, it was an escape route. Before they could reach the sleek black car waiting at the far end, the overhead door screeched open. A shadow stepped inside, gun raised. Lucian moved like a predator, shoving Ava behind him, drawing his own weapon in one fluid motion. The first shot rang out, deafening in the enclosed space. Sparks flew as bullets ricocheted off metal. Ava pressed herself against the wall, heart hammering, watching Lucian return fire with ruthless precision. He wasn't just dangerous, he was built for this. When the last attacker hit the floor, silence returned, except for Ava's ragged breathing. Lucian turned, closing the space between them in 2 strides. "Get in the car," he ordered. But when his eyes locked on hers, there was something else there. Not just anger, not just danger. Something that made her shiver for an entirely different reason. "We're not safe yet," he said, voice low. "And until we are, you don't leave my side. Ever." The black car roared to life, its tires screaming as Lucian slammed the accelerator. Ava clutched the door handle, her eyes flicking to the side mirror. 2 SUVs burst from the shadows behind them, headlights blazing. "They're gaining," she shouted. Lucian didn't flinch. Not for long. The road was narrow, the night swallowing the edges in inky black. Lucian swerved without hesitation, every turn smooth but brutal. Ava's heart pounded, not just from the chase, but from the calm, almost lethal focus etched on his face. "Who are these people?" she asked, her voice shaking. "People who don't take no for an answer," he replied. "And they think you're the key to something they want." Ava stared at him. "Me? I don't even know what's happening." "Exactly," Lucian said sharply. And that's the only reason you're still alive. A sudden flash in the mirror. Gunfire. The rear windshield cracked, glass spraying across the seats. Ava ducked with a gasp. Lucian jerked the wheel, swerving into a dirt road that seemed to appear out of nowhere. The SUVs followed, but the uneven ground slowed them just enough. Lucian killed the headlights, letting the moon guide them until the sound of engines faded behind. When he finally stopped, they were deep in some forgotten stretch of countryside. Only the hum of the cooling engine filled the silence. "There's a motel about a mile from here," Lucian said, stepping out. "We walk. No trail." By the time they reached the flickering neon sign, Ava's legs ached, her clothes damp from the night air. The lobby smelled faintly of cigarette smoke. Lucian slapped down cash for a single key without asking her opinion. "One room?" she asked, arching a brow as they stepped inside. "It's safer," he said simply, locking the door behind them. The space was small, the bed even smaller. Lucian tossed his jacket over the chair, the black fabric sliding to reveal the holster at his side. Ava's gaze lingered on the curve of muscle beneath his shirt before she forced herself to look away. He caught the glance, a faint smirk tugging at his lips. "If you're worried I'll cross the line, don't. I'm not that kind of man." "Good," she said quickly. But when the lights went out and the shadows stretched across the room, Ava realized she could hear every breath he took from the other side of the bed. And despite everything, the fear, the danger, her body seemed to know exactly how close he was. Ava woke to the sound of footsteps. Low, careful. Inside the room. Her pulse spiked instantly. The curtains were drawn, the only light a faint strip from the bathroom door. She turned her head. Lucian was already sitting up, gun in hand, eyes locked on the door. He motioned for silence. The footsteps stopped. Then, a low creak of the wooden floor near the window. Lucian moved without a sound, gliding to the side of the room. Ava, breath held, slid her feet to the ground, her heart hammering. She thought of hiding, but something inside her rebelled against the idea of cowering again. The shadow moved. Ava snatched the heavy lamp from the nightstand and gripped it tight. In an instant, the window shattered inward. A man in dark clothes lunged through, but Ava swung first, the lamp connecting with a sickening crack. He staggered back, giving Lucian the split second he needed. The gun went off once, twice. The man collapsed halfway in the frame. Lucian's eyes flicked to her, sharp but unreadable. "You just saved my life." Ava was trembling, adrenaline roaring in her ears. "Don't read too much into it. I just didn't want to die." He stepped closer, taking the lamp gently from her hands. "You were brave. And reckless." His voice was low, almost approving. The scent of him, gunpowder, sweat, and something darkly masculine, wrapped around her. They stood close, too close. His gaze fixed on hers like he was seeing her for the first time. For a moment neither moved. Then Lucian leaned in, his lips near her ear. "Next time aim for the throat." A shiver slid down her spine. Heat blooming in places she didn't want to admit. She stepped back, breaking the tension. Lucian glanced at the shattered window. "We can't stay. Whoever sent him knows where we are now." And just like that, they were moving again. Bags, keys, the night swallowing them as they drove off toward an even deeper unknown. The safe house was nothing like Ava expected. Not a grimy backroom or a dark basement. This one was a forgotten colonial bungalow deep in the woods, the kind of place that smelled faintly of rain and old wood. Lucian checked every corner, every window, then locked the front door. "We'll be safe here. For now." Ava dropped her bag on the couch, her limbs aching from hours of tense travel. "You said that last time." His gaze cut to her, sharp as a blade. "And you're still alive, aren't you?" She didn't answer. The air between them was electric, prickling with unspoken things. She remembered the way his eyes lingered on her after she swung that lamp, the way his voice had dropped to that dangerous whisper. Lucian disappeared into the kitchen. She heard the sound of running water, a glass clink. When he came back, his jacket was off, his shirt sleeves rolled up, revealing forearms lined with muscle and faint scars. "You should sleep," he said, setting the glass on the table. "Long day tomorrow." Ava almost laughed. "You think I can sleep after someone broke through our window tonight?" His eyes didn't leave hers. "Then stop pacing and do something else." Something in the way he said it, calm, low, challenging, made her throat go dry. She stepped closer without thinking, her pulse tripping. "You're impossible," she murmured. "And you're trouble," he replied, that ghost of a smirk playing at his mouth. They were too close now. She could feel his heat, smell the faint leather and gun oil clinging to him. Her breath hitched, and then, without warning, he reached out, his hand curling around her waist, pulling her flush against him. The kiss was sudden, rough and hot. Not gentle, not careful, like he'd been holding back for far too long. She matched him, fingers clutching at his shirt, tasting the danger on his lips. When they broke apart, her breath was ragged. "That was a mistake," she whispered. "Maybe," Lucian said, his voice low and dangerous. "But I'm not sorry." And from the way her heart pounded, Ava knew she wasn't either. The first thing Ava noticed when she woke was the silence. Not the peaceful kind. This was too heavy, like the air was holding its breath. Lucian was already up, crouched by the window with his gun in hand. His jaw was tight. "What is it?" she asked, sitting up. He didn't look at her. "Someone's here. They found us." Her blood ran cold. "How?" "You said." "I said for now." His tone was clipped. "Get dressed. We move in 2 minutes." Ava scrambled for her boots. Her hands shook as she laced them, memories of the kiss flashing in her mind. There was no time to process it, no time for anything. Lucian signaled her to stay low as they slipped out the back door into the trees. They moved fast, his hand gripping hers, guiding her over roots and rocks. But halfway through the woods, a shadow stepped out from behind a tree. "Going somewhere, boss." Ava froze. It was Rafe, the same man Lucian had called his most trusted. But now he was holding a rifle, its muzzle trained directly on them. Lucian's voice was ice. "You've got 3 seconds to explain yourself." Rafe smirked. "You think I'd spend my life running on your orders for scraps? They're paying triple, Lucian. And all I had to do was deliver the girl." Ava's stomach dropped. "Me? Don't take it personal, sweetheart," Rafe said with a lazy shrug. "You just happen to be worth more than gold right now." Lucian stepped slightly in front of her, his shoulders tense, his finger tightening on the trigger. "You should have shot me in my sleep," Lucian growled. "Because now." But before he could finish, a rustle erupted in the bushes. Too many footsteps. They were surrounded. Lucian glanced at her, eyes burning with an unspoken promise. "I'll get you out of this." The circle of rifles closed in. The rifles didn't lower. In fact, they drew closer. Clicks of safeties disengaging filled the forest like the ticking of a death clock. Rafe raised a hand. "No one shoot unless I say. We want her alive." Lucian's jaw clenched. "You're making a mistake, Rafe." "Funny," Rafe said, stepping closer. "That's what Adrien said too, right before he died." The words hit Ava like a slap. Her breath caught. He's dead." Rafe's grin widened. "That knife. You buried it deeper than you thought." But his last words. He tilted his head mockingly. He said, "If she ever thinks she's free, remind her." Lucian didn't blink. "Then why are you still after her?" Rafe's tone sharpened. "Because Adrien had contingencies. Plans. He knew you'd get involved. He knew she'd run. But more than anything, he knew Ava was special. She's not just some girl. She's human," Lucian snapped. "Not a damn trophy." Rafe's gaze darkened. "She's the key." Ava flinched. "What do you mean?" But Rafe wasn't talking to her anymore. He lifted his walkie. "Bring him in." A few heartbeats later, the trees parted, and a man limped forward, flanked by 2 guards. Lucian's breath caught. Ava staggered back. Because the man was Adrien Cole. Guard. Alive. Hello, love, he rasped, a twisted smile pulling at his lips. Miss me? Ava couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Adrien Cole stood before her, burned, scarred, but unmistakably alive. I saw you die, she whispered, backing into Lucian. I stabbed you, there was blood. Adrien's smile was twisted. Oh, there was blood, Ava. Enough to make you think you'd won. But death. He chuckled low. No, baby. I'm not that easy to kill. Lucian's hand hovered near his weapon, but the ring of rifles around them made it clear. Any move would be suicide. Adrien's eyes never left Ava. You looked so beautiful that night. I had the whole evening planned. The music, the champagne, the ring. He took a step forward, voice darkening. But instead of saying yes, you buried a knife in my side and ran. Ava's voice shook. Because you were suffocating me, controlling me, threatening me. You misunderstood love, Adrien said coldly. And you made a mistake. But not the one you think. She blinked, confused. You didn't just run with a ring, he said. You ran with the one thing I never meant for anyone to find. Lucian frowned. What are you talking about? Adrien's gaze burned into Ava. That ring box. It had a flash drive inside, hidden beneath the velvet. Everything I've ever protected. Names, accounts, transactions, videos. My empire. All of it. Ava's breath caught. I didn't know. I know, he snapped. You were stupid. But now you're a witness. A walking threat. Lucian's eyes narrowed. That flash drive could expose everything. Adrien nodded. And I've been bleeding men and money hunting her down because of it. Because if that drive ever lands in the wrong hands, I won't just lose my power. I'll lose everything. Ava backed up. I swear I didn't know. I never even opened it. Then give it back, Adrien growled. Now. I don't have it with me. Wrong answer. Adrien's expression cracked. Then we have a problem. Because if I can't have the drive, I'll take what's left of you instead. Lucian moved in front of her. You're not touching her. Adrien looked almost amused. Still playing knight in broken armor. Lucian stared him down. She's not yours to claim. Adrien raised his hand. A red sniper dot locked onto Lucian's chest. Ava's heart seized. You can't outrun me, Ava, Adrien said softly. Not anymore. Bring me the ring box. Or I'll bury everyone who ever helped you. One by one. He nodded at Raven. Raven raised his rifle. Lucian turned to Ava and whispered. Run. Now. Then everything exploded. Gunshots, screams, trees cracking. And Ava, heart racing and ring box hidden in the lining of her bag, ran for her life again. But this time she knew what she was carrying. And she finally understood why they would never stop chasing her.